enemies to lovers, found family, and lots of action. If you are looking for a new book to read, I'm reviewing a book in my reading journal today, so stay tuned to see the whole episode. Hi friends, I'm Ashley. Welcome to Darling Cottage Diary. Today we are reviewing this lovely book that I am very excited about. My sister gifted it to me for the Yuletide season this past year, and it was an easy read. I don't usually read a whole lot of fiction, but I was excited to get started this year I didn't give myself a number goal or anything like that. It's just I wanted to read more fiction, move that direction, and having that goal without any kind of constraints. I've finished this one. I'm almost finished with my second one. So very excited to talk to you about it. If you wanted to read any of those passages, those were some of my favorite ones, and you could pause the video. So anyway, if you're new here, hi. I make journaling content of all sorts. Sometimes I do voiceover, especially when I'm doing a review of a movie or a book. I usually like to talk about the lore and the literacy and everything that goes with it, and then my thoughts on creating a journal page for it. I also really love to do ASMR videos when I don't feel like talking and just making pretty sounds and pretty pictures for you. So if you're interested in that, please remember to subscribe, like this video so that YouTube shows me to you again. I post every weekend, usually Sundays, but sometimes I get them out early on Saturdays. So moving on to this book. It was very good. It's a young adult book, and it's not heavy on spice if you're a spicy reader at all. There's a lot of fade to black scenes, but there is a love story, and it's on the periphery of this much bigger storyline that's going on about. It's set in this kind of Viking age era, maybe a little pre-Viking age, kind of maybe in the Bronze Age in the Nordic region. And you know, they don't use any of the Norse gods. I think the author maybe brought up, I think she maybe created some because there's no like Thor and Freya and those kind of gods, but she broke it down more simply to, I think, fit the storyline that she wanted. But some of the words are there, some of the accents are there, a lot of the aesthetic is there, as well as, you know, what we can imagine maybe life was probably like back then, as well as the landscape. So we have our main heroine, we have our main protagonist. Her name is Aylin. And obviously I don't know if I'm saying these names right. This is how I said them in my head. Aylin, and she is part of the Oska tribe. They live by the beach, and she has grown up on the coast, and every 5 years they go to war with another clan who are from the mountains, and this blood feud goes back for a very long time. And she thinks the story opens right in the middle of a battle scene. It's a very action-packed book. I loved that part of it. I tend to, as girly as I am on the outside, I love, you know, action, war, gory books, and I do like historical fiction of all time periods, and sometimes I like them, you know, like the Jane Austen type social stuff, but for the most part I like action books. So this is a little off brand for my normal aesthetic, but if you've been around here long, you know I do go in for this kind of stuff every once in a while in my journals. So she's in this battle scene at the very beginning of the book, and she thinks she sees her brother fighting with the other tribe, and coincidentally, her brother died 5 years previously. She watched him get stabbed and fall into a ravine. And so she can't shake it that she saw him and he was real. He wasn't some kind of spirit, so she follows after him. and then loses his trail, goes back, tells her father about it, who's the leader of their clan, and they end up going to battle again. She sees him the next battle and follows him more, and then she gets shot. she gets brought down, and some other things happen. She ends up a prisoner of this other tribe. And I'm debating on how many spoilers to give you. I think I'll stop there on the more specific spoilers. Hopefully that was enough to get you interested to read the book. But it's fascinating to watch her, because she's 18, and so her brother's a few years older than her. And we watch her go through the emotions of a lot of, teenagers and young adults. When you start, entering the adult world, you have these very black and white ideas about what the world is, what your life is supposed to be, and all of this. And she really has to wrestle with the things she's been taught, the convictions that she has about who to trust, who to love. And it's really fascinating to watch that, because although the writing is very exciting and it is very engaging, it's not super highbrow as far as the descriptions or, the author picking everything apart. It's definitely a YA book in that way, but she did a really good job of retroactively looking back at, probably drawing from her own life, of how it was to be a teenager. And because I found myself, oh gosh, I remember thinking that way. I remember doing that. I remember feeling this way. Obviously, this is a very extreme example of that, but just learning that the world is not as black and white as we think it can be at that time. We start learning nuance and we start learning abstract thinking, and she does a really good job of showing all of that. So with this spread, I wanted to bring in the elements of both the beach and the mountains, because the scenery themselves take place in those two places. The story itself takes place in those locations, but it also represents herself and her love interest. His name is Fiska. And as you can probably guess, he's from the other tribe. So there is this, finding peace, very enemies to lovers situation, very how to know when to trust somebody, things that people do where, to not prove themselves in a display of trying to win you over, but how they naturally react, learning how to trust somebody with their natural reactions. And it's not soapy and it's not over the top lovey-dovey. It really reminded me kind of the Hunger Games. Not the storyline at all, but just how the relationship develops of the protagonist. It's from her point of view, and so you are hearing her thoughts, and she thinks that this person is against her and all of this, and then you kind of start seeing later that he's been protecting her in different ways where you thought he wasn't. And which of course we love that around here. And there's just a lot of moments where they have each other's backs, and they've definitely go from enemies to friends. It's a very slow burn on that. Most of their romantic interaction happens toward the end of the book, but there's so much action and battle sequence and everything that happens there. It's good to see her be able to be soft with somebody. So, and that's what all of us tough, independent ladies want, right? We want to be able to be soft with just our guy. And I love that about this book because I actually wish there had been a little more of that. And I could have done with a little more spiciness to it. But what was there was good, and it was sweet. So I liked those parts of the book. I do wish they had let her relax into her femininity a little bit more. She is very the tough girl who doesn't like to wear dresses type of thing, which is totally fine. But as somebody who has relaxed more into my feminine as I've aged, I can look at that and I know that I'm annoyed because I used to be that way. And now I love being able to be very girly and feminine and then put on my masculinity when I need it. And so she's not there yet. She's still at that age where being very masculine feels safe to her, which is another way I could really relate. And I just wanted that for the character. It's not like it was something I would have changed in the book. So anyway, these little stickers I thought were perfect to kind of illustrate the dark greens of the forest, the conifer trees, and contrasting it with the snow and just the mountainous region. The bear, there's a very important connection to the mountain tribes' spirituality with bears. And there's a moment where it's really the first time we kind of see him outwardly be not only protective of her, but also kind of think of her as more than somebody he's just trying to protect and then get out of his town. It's more of a, oh, there's something about this girl kind of thing. And so I wanted to include a little bear in that because that's an important turning point in the book. And then, of course, the seashells and the textured paper, that just looked like seaweed to me. And so I wanted to have this heart that was it was messy and kind of mixing together, because she is learning throughout the story that love is messy. Familial love and romantic love is messy, and it can be messy, and not in a bad way where like, oh, there has to be a give and take, and there is that, but it's less about like changing to adapt to somebody else. It's more about two people or groups of people making concessions to fit together better. So that's why I wanted to have the two inks blending as well, in this kind of Rorschach inspired heart of, we have her culture and her clan and who she is as a person, and her understanding of her spirituality as well, because she has a sea god that she worships, and he has a bear goddess that he worships, and so they are learning about each other's cultures and kind of starting to blend together. And it's not, again, it's enemies to lovers. So we're learning how to accept other people's beliefs, and even if we don't maybe believe them themselves, or maybe we start understanding that we can be part of both. And I just really liked that in the story as well. So even if you are not a young adult, I'm no longer a young adult. It was still a really good book, and it was a quick read for people who don't have a lot of time. That's one reason I actually really like YA books, is because I don't always have the time to sit down and read like Margaret Atwood, who is my favorite author, but very heady, and I need time to sit and think. And also she usually talks about very heavy topics, and I have to take a break sometimes because it's emotionally draining. This is not. This is axes and swords and foraging in the forest to help heal people, and healing wounds together, and learning to trust people who are actually good people around you. And so anyway, I really loved this book. If you've read it, please tell me in the comments. I'm sorry if this was too many spoilers. I was trying to go light on it. But anyway, if you've read it, please tell me what you thought of it in the comments. Or if you know of any adult books that have these themes, please make your suggestions, because I loved this book, but like I said, I wanted a little bit more of the relationship in it, but still with all of the action and clan stuff going on and everything else. I just wanted a little bit more romantic intrigue. So if you know of anything like that with the Viking Age aesthetic, that would be awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and take the time to thank my Ephemera Club for sponsoring me this month. And if you don't know what Ephemera Club is, it's a monthly subscription where you vote on themes for the month, and I create printables for you. Sometimes it's like foldable printables of envelopes and stuff. Sometimes it's just things you can print on vellum or regular paper and cut them out and put them in your journals. And then if you want to be part of the physical Ephemera Club, then you get a little parcel of handmade and vintage ephemera that I make and source for you every month, depending on that theme, as well as Discord server access and that kind of thing. So if you're interested in that, feel free to follow that link. But anyway, I wanted to go ahead and thank my members who are sponsoring me this month. So that would be Shayna, Krista, Donna, Cindy, Abigail, Kathleen, Joanna, Rebecca, Sasha, Patsy, Teresa, Effie, Kim, Emily, Carly, Carrie, Leprechaun Mom, Britt, Alicia, Kenna, Rachel, Denise, W, Jennifer, Ariel, and Rasha. And most of y'all have been with me for over a year now. Thank you so much. It means so much to me. And if you're looking for other ways to support me that are not monthly, I do have a shop where I make little mini journal kits, confetti, walnuts, and buying anything from the supply links I have listed below also gives me a tiny commission with no extra cost to you. So even if you can just like this video, I really appreciate any support that you guys give me. It's been really awesome, and I've been able to connect with so many people. It's been so nice. Anyway, so back to this story. I did really enjoy this book. As I said, there were a few things I wish would have been fleshed out a little bit more, but that's just my personal preference. I think the author did a great job for what she was going for, and I know that the the like Norse bros would probably hate this book because there aren't a whole lot of written sources for women in, like, warrior women in battle. Yes, a lot of them fought out of necessity, but I've seen lots of infighting about how Norse women behaved and how Viking Age women behaved, and, you know, that they were kind of this protected at all costs, precious people, and that they were very much well cared for and were very well respected compared to other cultures around the world during this time period. And so I wouldn't want to argue with that, but as a feisty lady, it was just fun to read this as a fantasy of, you know, the two of them going into battle together and the clans in general going to battle together. Not all of the women fight. She is kind of singular. She and one of her friends are very singular in this. A lot of the women are only fighting out of necessity. Most of them are healers and mothers and all of these, you know, protecting their kids. So I wouldn't want to... the author does a good job of showing that she's probably not the norm, but also there were probably especially young women who didn't have kids yet who probably went hard in the paint when it came to needing to go fight. And so I'd also like to hear your thoughts on that, because most of my following is women, and I know there's probably various opinions about warrior women, or, you know, that kind of idea of historical or not, just the different contexts that we face and we can face in modern life and in history. And anyway, I just want to hear your thoughts on it. So if you make it to the end, please leave me a little crossed swords emoji so that I know that you made it. And if you have any suggestions for books, please leave those as well, or suggestions for future video topics. I've gotten a lot of them for a tour of my studio office, and I might just have to show y'all the real deal of how messy it is all the time. The impulse me wants to clean everything so that you don't see the kind of chaos that I create in, but I might just have to show y'all the real deal, so it won't be very aesthetic, but hopefully if you have messy little corners of rooms where you created, you'll be able to relate. Anyway, I appreciate y'all being here so much. I'll stop talking now so you can enjoy the very last bits of the writing sounds, and next week will probably be an ASMR, so if you're used to that content, definitely come back next week. Thank you so much for being here. I will talk to y'all in the comments later this week. I hope you have a wonderful week. Thanks so much for being here. Bye.